Welcome back to Younger MMA. So, in a lot of kind of like esoteric mysticism in the books that you can read about that, like, there's this reoccurring theme, there's this belief that pops up across a lot of different beliefs, that there's this thing called a natural initiate. And so a natural initiate is where, instead of being an initiate of a secret society or one of these occult kind of brotherhoods or whatever, the natural initiate goes through initiation through ordeal, so through things that just happen to them, and that it's naturally ordained by God or orchestrated by God. And so it's kind of this idea that being initiated into a cult or kind of one of these like secret societies is a counterfeit form of something that an individual can do, but it's a longer, more difficult process, and it is kind of a mystery, and it's only understandable by the person on the path. And so it's like between you and God, and it's basically secret. It's like between you and God only, right? And that's a contrast between that concept and being initiated into a cult. It's like there's gatekeepers between you and the knowledge. Like, they'll often call it gnosis. And usually with stuff like that, there's some kind of catch. It's like once you get initiated, it's like you have some knowledge, but you have to go along with what we're doing. You can't just go do your own thing. You lose some kind of freedom or something. Anyway, so keep that concept in mind. But I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the games Elder Scrolls. But if you never played any of those games, you'll still understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go deep into the game, so don't worry. But the reason I bring up the natural initiate thing is, so obviously Oblivion Remastered just came out a few months ago. Now, that game came out 20 years ago, originally. The original Oblivion. And 20 years ago, like, we didn't really have the internet culture that we have now. And it wasn't super common to talk about this stuff I'm talking about right now, right? Like, right now, I'm one of like a million people on YouTube talking about anything with esoteric stuff, mysticism. A lot of people know a lot more about me. It's not like breaking news to anyone, right? But 20 years ago, it wasn't so common. And if you look into the lore of Elder Scrolls, there's a lot of parallels with different mystical traditions, and is very Gnostic. So if you know anything about Gnosticism, particularly their cosmology, so their belief about like what reality is and all that, Elder Scrolls has a Gnostic cosmology. And here's what I mean. So if you read into the lore, the reality that you live in as the person that you're playing as when you're in the game, the reality is called Mundus, and that's like the universe that you're in. Mundus is the physical realm. So the other realms like are more spiritual, and Mundus is the physical realm. Again, this is the lore in the video game. I'm not talking about anything from real life right now. So Mundus is the physical realm. Here's the thing, it's more like a dream. So it's a dream realm that's not entirely real, and is being dreamed up by everyone in there collectively. So like when you go to sleep at night, you have an individual dream. Well, now imagine a dream that's being collectively projected from everyone that's in it, and we're all dreaming it together. I'm sure you see where I'm going with this like already. So that's what Mundus is. And within Mundus, you can achieve a sacred state. It's like enlightenment, and it's called Chim, C-H-I-M. So in the game, Chim is described, if you read it, you know, the lore and stuff, it's described as becoming lucid in the dream. Now, not to the point where when you literally lucid dream, you can just like fly or just do whatever you want. It's not exactly like that. It's a little more like you're aware that everything is really more, reality is a lot more malleable than most people realize. So reality is almost like clay that you can kind of just mold into whatever you want. But it doesn't mean that it's instantaneous. Like I said, it's not literally like lucid dreaming. It still requires work. Time is still a constraint that you live inside of. So there's still limitations. But Chim is where you know what you're in, and you're just enjoying it, right? And so back to the whole natural initiate versus being initiated into a cult. If you played Oblivion, you know that there's a cult in Oblivion. It's called the Mythic Dawn, and their goal is to like end the world. I'm not going to get super into the game. I'm sure you either know, but if you don't know, you don't want me to even get into it. But there's a cult that's trying to end the world. They're called the Mythic Dawn. Now, in real life, there was a cult called the Golden Dawn. And I can't remember if they were around in like the 1950s and 60s, or maybe if they were like Aleister Crowley's time, like the early 1900s, like 1905 or something. I can't really remember. But it's interesting that the Golden Dawn sounds very similar to Mythic Dawn. Well, another thing that makes me think there's a connection is that in the game, the main antagonist is Mankar Cameron, and he's the leader of the Mythic Dawn. And Mankar Cameron wrote these 4 books called Commentaries on the Mysteriums Arxes. And according to the lore, he wrote those books by being like possessed by a deity, and it was like he was channeling through himself what the deity wanted to write in the books. Well, Aleister Crowley made the same claim about the Book of Law, or the Book of the Law. He wrote that in like 1904, I think. He claims being channeled, or that he was channeling a deity called like Iowas or something. That might be the one. So, yeah, there's a lot of connections. It's pretty weird. But what I want to talk about is how Chim is something that I believe that there's an equivalent in real life. So it's not like the way that a lot of law of attraction and manifestation people will make it sound, where you kind of just reach enlightenment and then you make everything happen instantly. I don't believe it's like that, or maybe it is and I'm just not enlightened enough. But I think that Chim, or becoming lucid in this dream that we live in, because that's not just lore in Elder Scrolls. If you read pretty much every religion, including the Bible to some extent, it does say that this reality is more of like a dream, that it's not real. You know, that the real reality is eternal. And in eternity, there is no time. Time is an illusion. This is in every religion, every form of mysticism, right? Well, I believe that Chim, or becoming lucid, right, is a lot more like understanding the protocols to manifest. So it's not that you can just manifest instantly like that. I think it's more like, you know that it might take time and it might take repetition, but you know how to call things into your life. And kind of the mechanics of how that works. But a big benefit of becoming lucid in this dream is that you're no longer like so involved. So like when there's events going on, like right now, people think that World War III is about to break out and there's bombs going off and stuff. My advice would be, if it freaks you out, first of all, just tune it out completely. But there is a way to tune into these things and look at what's going on, but not crap your pants and not be like, oh my god, I'm about to get nuked. And same thing with everyday life. Like if someone is rude to you or cuts you off in traffic, you can kind of just look at it like, wow, how absurd, you know, like this is a crazy dream we're in. But, you know, reality really is a lot more malleable than we've been told. And a fascinating thing about Elder Scrolls, because I really do believe the people that wrote the lore in this game had some kind of knowledge of Gnosticism or of the occult or something, because in every Elder Scrolls game you start off in the dungeons, and so you essentially start off in prison, or like in Skyrim you're about to be executed and you're like, you just got arrested before the game started. So I believe that that's symbolic, and that the symbolism is trying to say that in order to achieve Chim, or to become lucid in this dream, that the first thing you have to do is break free of the mental prison. And so I believe the mental prison is all about like limitation and kind of the things that are like ingrained into you when you're a kid, and people are constantly trying to tell you like, you're not special, you're not special, you're not special. You can't just do whatever you want. You need to pick the secure option. I think that's kind of the dungeons, and that eventually when you realize that the magic, the magic of life is in not really knowing what's about to happen and just going for it. So if you're playing Elder Scrolls, don't if you really know Oblivion, for example, and how magical the game is, you know that you don't want to turn your nose up to a lot of those random quests. A lot of them sound kind of anticlimactic when they tell you what the task is. You're like, really? That's it? But when you go on those, there's always a plot twist and something happens, So, yeah, I believe that the equivalent of Chim in real life is not taking life so seriously and just trying to go on the adventure for the adventure's sake. But no one said it would be easy though. I don't think that the true law of attraction or any of that is really about ease and it just being super easy. You still have to get past your comfort zone. You still have to expand past your limitations, and all that is going to require some suffering and all that. But you'd rather be a creator in this world, someone that's putting something out. Even if I post a video and I get 0 views, I'd rather be the guy posting something. I'd rather be going out, accepting the quest. I don't turn my nose up to a random quest. Yeah, why not? Let's go do that. I think that's what it's all about. Don't take things so seriously. But anyway, that's kind of the only message that I could squeeze out of that could actually maybe help someone. But what's just fascinating, and this is more just for entertainment and something I think about, is if you research the lore in Elder Scrolls and then you try to find the parallels between that and stuff in real life, it's really, really creepy. For example, in Oblivion, the deity that they're trying to bring into Cyrodiil to destroy the world, so they're trying to open gates to hell, essentially, so that this deity comes through. His name is Mehrunes Dagon, and there actually is an entity called Dagon, and it might be mentioned in the Bible, but I could be wrong about that. But Dagon is a well-documented deity that, if it's not in the Bible, it's in grimoires or something from the occult, because some people have worshipped Dagon in real life. But anyway, there's a lot of weird parallels, and it might be a fascinating rabbit hole for you to go down. I'm not the authority on Gnosticism or anything, so, but yeah, that's an interesting rabbit hole for anyone who wants to go down it. Just thought that was an interesting little angle. So yeah, this is Younger MMA. I'll be back soon. Peace.